From great to grand, Exarban, the nation's largest 4-H livestock show, has a new home. Coming up on Grow, we'll have more on the big announcement and what it means for Fauner Park and the Nebraska State Fair. Plus, farmers say too little, too late. We'll have more from the Capitol on the governor's tax plan and put a lens on agriculture in Franklin County. Our county snapshot straight ahead as we grow. Farmers rally for tax relief. We'll have complete coverage in just a moment. But first, Exarban, the nation's largest 4-H stock show, has a new home in central Nebraska.
20 years old, been showing for 13 years.
Champions are made at the Nebraska State Fair. Now, the largest 4-H livestock show in the country moves to Grand Island.
The Exarban Stock Show is a signature event for Nebraska, period. It is one of the most prestigious shows in the livestock world.
After 89 years, Exarban is leaving Omaha. And with lessons learned from moving the state fair from Lincoln, Grand Island community leaders say that experience prepares them for this.
We're going to have to look at adding some staff in order to produce the show, but I think we're ready to take that on.
The 4-day event at the end of September is expected to attract well over 1,000 exhibitors and thousands of animals.
The Exarban Stock Show in Omaha was over a $20 million impact on their community. I would expect that Grand Island is going to see a significant into those $10, $15 million impacts.
The show has most recently been held at the CenturyLink Center, but this moves it to one of the nation's premier livestock arenas.
They aren't built for concerts or other activities. They're built for livestock.
The facilities at Fauner Park have quickly built a reputation over 7 years, hosting national livestock shows. And along with the state fair, this adds a second signature event.
This one is kind of the icing on the cake, and we're not done.
Pretty big deal there. More on Exarban later in the show. Now to our other top story. As the governor defends his property tax plan hitting the road, here's more from St. Paul.
We can balance the budget, do all the things we're supposed to do, and not raise taxes.
Controlling spending and also cutting taxes. Governor Pete Ricketts says it can be done. But hands shoot up with questions from family farmers.
Their property taxes.
Kathy Hirschman says the governor's plan can't undo years of skyrocketing taxes.
Since 2010 have increased from 210 to 290%.
The governor says that's why a new approach is needed. He wants to determine property taxes based on the income potential of the land, as states like Iowa, Kansas, and South Dakota have done.
Indiana, Wisconsin, and Ohio all use this to help their farmers and ranchers be more competitive in the marketplace.
In recent years, the governor led efforts to add $40 million in tax credits for farmers while imposing spending controls on schools and local government. And he says changing the way farmland taxes are calculated is another step.
We didn't get into the situation overnight with regard to ag land valuation. We're not going to get out of it overnight. But we have to make that structural change for the long-term competitiveness of agriculture here in the state.
But on her family's farm and cattle land, Kathy Hirschman says it won't do much.
A couple of pretty rough years, so 2% down on paying $75 an acre already doesn't add much relief there.
The governor has been hitting the road to towns like St. Paul as he makes the case that his plan brings needed reform.
It's a big deal, but we need to make this for the long-term health of agriculture.
And a day after that, the governor himself in the hot seat before lawmakers. We visited the Capitol. Here's more.
Urgent action must be taken.
Farm groups come together with a common purpose.
And using their voices and hoping that they're heard by the folks that work here.
Farmers like Miles Ramsey of Kennesaw struggle to break even, and taxes are a huge burden.
I can control what I spend on seed. I can control what I spend on fertilizer, but taxes, property taxes are not based on ability to pay.
But that could change under a bill up for debate. Legislative Bill 338 would factor in the income potential of the land using 10 years of government data. And the bill has a big backer.
And for the record, my name is Pete Ricketts, P-E-T-E.
The governor testifying twice before the legislature on the same day on his vision to cut income taxes and reform the property tax system.
To be able to grow our state, we've got to become more competitive.
Farmers say the governor's approach is good, but by the time it takes effect, taxes on farmland will remain high.
I know some properties are still going up, 8 to 10%, and this is a 3% decrease at the most. So it's too little, too late.
I can't wait 3 or 4 years. That's too late. We need it today.
A farmer himself, Senator Kurt Friesen, agrees. He has a different approach, though, giving schools more money so they would be less dependent on property taxes. Several ideas are in play, and a compromise may be coming.
I think we've got enough bills out there to work with. We just have to come up with a package that we think we can get through the legislature.
Now to our poll question. What approach would you like to see the legislature take when it comes to property tax relief? Should they use sales tax money to go to schools to offset property taxes, or go with the governor's approach and base property taxes on the income potential of the land? Or is there another option you'd like to see? Cast your vote on Twitter and share your comments. And speaking of the state budget, the University of Nebraska could have to deal with some cuts, and that could affect ag programs. NTV's Aisha Aubrey has more from Mike Boehm, the new chief of agriculture at the university.
Dr. Mike Boehm is the new Vice Chancellor for the Institute of Agriculture and Natural Resources at the University of Nebraska. He started the first of the year and has met hundreds of Nebraskans.
Definite learning about the passion that people have for the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. It is the land-grant university in the state, and there is a huge connection with the people of Nebraska. So that's number one.
And he's heard from many farmers who want the university to continue its outreach role to consumers with research-based information.
People are, especially those who produce and make sure we have food, are really concerned about the lack of scientific literacy out in the general public. For example, a question on a survey where someone asked, is it okay to have DNA in our food? And 47% of the people said no.
Boehm traveled to Kearney this week along with UNL Chancellor Ronnie Green, who previously oversaw ag programs. Boehm said they're working together on the budget, knowing cuts are likely.
In challenging times, Nebraska Extension steps up to help producers. Extension has launched a new initiative they're calling Strengthening Nebraska's Agricultural Economy. Extension leaders say they're putting tools in the hands of producers to help make critical decisions when faced with low commodity prices and high input costs. The Crop Watch website will be a good source of that info. There are also webinars producers can watch. Producers can also find information related to the initiative on Twitter with the hashtag #StrongNebraskaAg. Now to the results of last week's poll question. We wanted to know what steps are farmers and ranchers most likely to take this year to deal with the poor economy. Number one, put off replacing machinery. The second option, reducing inputs, while some also looking at reducing living expenses and reducing hired help, and we suspect many looking at all of those options and more. Meanwhile, the governor announces the agenda for the 29th annual Nebraska Governor's Egg Conference. It'll be held March 14th and 15th in Kearney. The theme is Riding the Nebraska Brand, and we'll talk about domestic and international trade and also economic issues. State Ag Director Greg Ibaugh says it's for anyone in the industry to network and stay current. There will also be a panel featuring leaders from Broken Bow on rural economic development and discussions on how Nebraska is trying to brand itself to set itself apart. A central Nebraska cattle feeder moves into a national role. Craig Uden of Dar Feedlot near Kozan is this year's president for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, following the recent NCBA conference in Nashville. Uden is a fourth-generation cattleman from Elwood and has been active with the Nebraska Cattlemen and also the Beef Council, and now leads the NCBA and its efforts on behalf of cattle producers across the country. And one of the top family-owned cattle feeding businesses has new management. Adams Land and Cattle has promoted Abram Babcock to president of the company. Jerry and Bill Adams made the announcement this week. Babcock grew up on a farm and studied ag economics and got a PhD in veterinary epidemiology. He joined Adams in 2010. Adams has more than 200 employees based in Broken Bow, with more than 125,000 head in 3 finishing lots in Nebraska. Later in the show, putting a lens on agriculture in Franklin County. Up next, more from the State Fair on the move of Exarban.